In de volgende eeuw is Afrika het continent waar de meeste jonge mensen wonen. De bevolking zal dan gegroeid zijn van 1,3 miljard naar bijna 4 miljard mensen. De economie van Afrika is een van de snelst groeiende ter wereld. En wie goed kijkt, ziet nu al een nieuwe generatie opstaan die staat te popelen om mee te doen.
I wanna be rich, I wanna be famous, I wanna have lots of money. Soar above the clouds, I wanna be free, like Nelson Mandela.
If you want new consumers, this is the last frontier of capitalism.
I mean, everything in Africa is going to end up dwarfing the kind of development we saw in the EU.
The world of tomorrow will not do without Africa.
Hoe zal Afrika er over 50 jaar uitzien?
Imagine a continent filled with limitless possibilities, where every African can realize their full potential. We can achieve this goal.
We have to believe that the future is open-ended.
Terwijl Afrika meestal in het nieuws is als er problemen zijn, gaan wij op zoek naar de positieve signalen uit het continent. We gaan op pad om te horen welke toekomstvisies er leven en kijken met een travelblogger, een oud-politicus, een filosoof, een ondernemer en een groene activist.
We have abundant wind, we have abundant solar.
Naar die nieuwe kaart van Afrika.
Like Mandela said, it always looks impossible until it is done.
Dit is Tegenlicht. Welkom in het Afrika van de toekomst.
I live and die in Africa.
I have traveled through 35 African countries using public transport by myself.
Always using public transport?
Yes.
Meaning?
Meaning if there's a bus, there's a train, there's a donkey, there's a ferry, there's a broken down bus that I can sit on top of and it's gonna get me to where I need to go. I'll use it.
And it's always you?
It's just me by myself. So I am known on social media as the solo wanderer. So I wander around the African continent by myself. This was in Lagos. This is a tuk-tuk. So this is how I was getting around in Lagos. Everybody needs to party in Uganda. You have to find a music festival and go drink beer in Uganda. Sao Tome and Principe is an island on the Atlantic. And it's, you just have to go there for the food. They have the freshest fish and everything is just fantastic. They've got amazing black volcanic beaches. So Sao Tome I absolutely loved for that. Why is catching a fish so complicated? My dream is educating Africans about Africa. If we have more Africans learning the most basics, our cultures, who we are, how we live, how we eat, how we party or how we celebrate.
But you feel a proud African, not so much. You relate your identity.
My identity is definitely African.
There is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that after all.
De gedachte dat je naar Afrika zou moeten kijken als één groot continent met een gedeelde geschiedenis en een eigen identiteit leefde al in de jaren 50 en 60. Toen ontwikkelden Afrikaanse denkers, schrijvers en politici de Pan-Afrikaanse gedachte, die uitgaat van de kracht van Afrika als één continent, bevrijd van haar koloniale grenzen. Het was een nieuw zelfbewustzijn dat groeide onder de toen nog jonge Afrikaanse staten. Oud-politicus Arthur Mutambara gelooft nog steeds in die droom.
The future of Africa that I envisage is Africa as one country. Not 55 countries, one country. The United States of Africa. With a potential GDP of $2.5 trillion and a population of 1.2 billion people. That's the Africa I want to see. We want to abolish national sovereignty and have continental sovereignty. The United States of Africa. That's my vision. There will be one passport, one national identity, one government, one judiciary, one legislature. There'll be free movement of goods and services, free movement of capital, free movement of services across the continent. We'll break down the barriers. We'll build infrastructure, roads, railways, air travel systems so that people can move from Cape to Cairo. Not through London, not through Paris, directly from Cairo to Cape Town.
Maar op dit moment is die droom nog ver weg. Als je kijkt naar de huidige vliegverbindingen in Afrika, dan lopen die nog langs de lijnen van de oude koloniale structuren.
Mostly if you want to get through the Francophone Africa and you want to fly, you have to do it from Europe.
So you're here in Johannesburg, which is English speaking?
Yes.
What would that mean for you if you would go from here to...
So I would have to fly into somewhere in Europe first to connect.
So you have to go from Africa to Europe and then from Europe back to Africa?
There's no communication, air communication, transportation between the Lusophone capitals and the Anglophone capitals, the Anglophone capitals and the Francophone capitals. So the structure of our transportation, air in particular, is along the desires of our colonial masters. So that is a problem that we have to break down as we unify our people.
Ook al zijn de contrasten nog groot, als je goed kijkt kun je de contouren van het nieuwe Afrika al ontwaren aan de kust van West-Afrika. Hier hebben 15 landen zich verenigd in het ECOWAS-gebied, een gemeenschappelijke handelszone waar 350 miljoen mensen vrij met elkaar kunnen handel drijven. In Lagos ontmoeten we de Nigeriaanse zakenvrouw Amy Jadesimi. Ze werd opgeleid aan Harvard en werkte in de Londense City als investmentbanker, maar koos ervoor om terug te keren naar haar moederland om daar de leiding over te nemen van het familiebedrijf Ladol. Ladol is een facilitair havenbedrijf gevestigd op een eiland in de haven van Lagos. Het is het grootste offshore bedrijf van West-Afrika en vormt de doorvoerhaven voor het hele achterland van het continent.
Nigeria is part of ECOWAS, so that means that we have close relationships with our neighboring countries within West Africa. So there is a lot of traffic of people moving in and out. It's regulated, of course, but there's nothing stopping from immigration perspective. There's nothing stopping anybody from an ECOWAS country coming and working in Nigeria.
Jadesimi vertegenwoordigt een nieuwe generatie van Afrikaanse ondernemers die over de grenzen heen kan denken. Ze heeft een duidelijke visie op waar het in Afrika naartoe moet. Als voorbeeld kijkt ze naar de Europese Unie met haar vrij verkeer van goederen, diensten en personen.
How are you? Well done. Good morning. Well done.
We want something like Schengen, only better.
Yeah.
Maybe you can explain.
Well, I think the concept of Schengen, I guess it would be, I would say something like Schengen only bigger. I mean, everything in Africa is going to end up dwarfing the kind of development we saw in the EU. One way I look at it is considering all the challenges we have in Nigeria, we have across the African continent at the moment, the fact that we have this level of development in this incredibly challenging environment tells you that as we solve those problems, as we solve those challenges, our development is going to skyrocket. I think we're going to see exponential growth across the continent as we solve these problems because we're primed for that growth.
In Nigeria zien we al hoe nieuwe economieën zich ontwikkelen. Ook in Ladol zijn ze de productieprocessen die nu nog geënt zijn op de oude fossiele brandstoffen, zoals gas, aan het omvormen tot een op de toekomst gerichte circulaire industrie.
We're out here by the power plant. We're going to build 24 megawatts and it's going to be gas powered. We are also going to have a waste to power and a biomass to power component because the waste that we collect from our clients and the waste that's generated by the businesses we want to set up in Ladol, from bamboo to cashew to cassava processing, will be used when it expands into a biomass plant.
Ook in Kenia denken ze na over de vraag hoe ze een sprong naar die toekomst kunnen maken. En daarbij heeft Kenia een groot voordeel, want het land heeft wind. Een hele goede kwaliteit wind.
Kenya's energy demand is going to grow significantly. And the economy needs power to be able to grow.
Hier in de heuvels rondom Nairobi zien we de eerste windmolens al verrijzen. Volgens Amos Wemanya van Power Shift Africa is dit het begin van een groene revolutie.
Africa has a huge potential to be a green superpower because it has abundant renewable energy resources that, if harnessed, will be used to power Africa's economy. But not only just powering Africa's economy, this huge potential in renewable energy resources could be used to share with the rest of the world and power economies on green renewable energy sources. Already, a green revolution is taking place on the continent. It's only that we need to start, Africa needs to borrow from already the revolution that is happening. Like here in Kenya, we have wind. In Rwanda, we have huge initiatives around solar. Same with Morocco has a huge solar power plant. So Africa is already harnessing its renewable energy resources, but what needs to be done is to capitalize on this huge potential to be able to roll out large renewable energy projects that could be shared across the continent, but also be shared with the rest of the world.
Terwijl de Afrikanen zelf met optimisme kijken naar hun onstuimige groei, wordt ons beeld van Afrika en Europa nog steeds bepaald door de nieuwsbeelden van de overvolle bootjes met migranten die vanuit Afrika onze kant op komen.
We happen to be living in a time where politicians and the media like to focus on negativity. But if you look at how the world has developed, how Europe has developed in the last 100 years, Europe has done tremendously well. You've increased your wealth, you've decreased your inequality, you've outperformed in many, many ways. And it's important to highlight that, because if you lose sight of that and you lose sight of how you did that, we can end up being where we are now, which, as I say, is in a place where people are focusing on negativity and making bad decisions because of that.
We don't want to see a situation where our people, our young people, are running away from the continent and dying across the seas, dying on the shores of Europe in pursuit of prosperity. We want to bring prosperity into the continent and be the attractive force for migration into the continent, not the other way around.
Illusion of secession, we might have had it long ago, but it's too late to think in terms of secession because everything now is entangled. In fact, there are no borders any longer when it comes to major processes, geological processes, climatological processes, life processes, make it such that to think in terms of secession is ridiculous.
One of the things people don't understand is when they say, okay, the youngest population in the world is in X place. What people in the West, I think, are missing is that what that means is that your pension, if you're in Europe, is going to be reliant on young people somewhere else in the world successfully growing an economy, because that's where the work is going to be done, full stop. So the way you should think about it is if most of the young people in the world, by quite a big margin, are going to be in Africa, you want Africa to be as successful economically as possible, because then there'll be a huge economy powering the rest of the world and giving all of us, a nice life as we retire, as well as peace and prosperity for our children. So the success of Africa is enormously important.
Stel dat Afrika zich in de toekomst inderdaad zou gaan opstellen als één groot machtsblok, waarbij ze meer samenwerken en de interne grenzen zouden vervagen. Wie zou zo'n omwenteling dan teweeg moeten brengen? Zijn dat de Afrikaanse leiders? Zouden zij bereid zijn om hun eigen positie op te geven?
That's a tough one. The current African leaders of the 55 countries would not want to become a minister of agriculture, a minister of tourism, a minister of the police for the continent. They would want to be president of Malawi, president of Zambia, president of Nigeria, even if it means presiding over starving people. So it is going to be very difficult for them to commit political suicide. The driver towards the United States of Africa cannot be leaders or cannot be governments. It has to be civic society, it has to be ordinary people, businesses, it has to be pressure brought to bear on the political elites to do what is in the interest of the majority of the Africans.
A lot is happening on the continent. Young people are coming together and forming networks, coalitions, and movements. We have youth activists who are voicing out their concerns and putting pressure on local leadership, African leadership, to come up with solutions. Because these challenges threaten their future, but also these challenges are bringing to Africa a realization for the need for Africa to come together. The change that is needed to happen in Africa will not be unilateral. It will come from various actors on the continent, from top leadership, government leadership, to civil society leadership, to youthful actors. But also from institutions like the African group of negotiators that are already building positions together in international spaces and trying to provide solutions that are fit for purpose on the continent. So everyone is playing a role, and I think we'll have an Africa that will be showcasing its potential to the world.
We have to believe that the future is open-ended. The moment we believe that the future has been entirely determined, okay, let's just close the door. We have to keep the future open. I was born in Cameroon. I mean, apartheid was still the norm. I never thought that it would end in my own lifetime. But those who were involved in it, when one reads their statements, what they did, what they thought, Mandela, Sisulu, Kathrada, and many others, it was out of the conviction that this thing would end in our lifetime. So you need that kind of originary faith in history, to make change. If you don't believe, you won't make change. It starts from that radical hope, and hope in the future as that which calls for further responsibilities, but more importantly for renewal.
Africa is gonna get better if we stop focusing so much on our politics. Because as young people, we are capable and we are making a difference. The problem becomes when we want to sit and wait on our politicians. And that's not gonna happen.
You can do it yourself.
We are doing it ourselves. That's it, we're doing it. It's not that we can, we are literally already doing it. Because we have the brains and the talents, and you know how to do it. So we have each other, so we must just all help each other climb up and make Africa better.
No place I'd rather be. Oh, na, na, na. Oh, na, na, na. There's no place I'd rather be. Oh, na, na, na. Live and die in Africa.